Hello and welcome to Stage Door Series. Today we'll be speaking to two young actresses from Playhouse on Park. They're in the middle of rehearsing for a Shayna Maidel. They are Laura Sudduth and Katharina Schmidt. And the play was written in 1984 by Barbara Lebo, and it has the backdrop of the Holocaust in it, but I'm told it's not really a Holocaust play. So that's an interesting thing. How is it not really a Holocaust play, but it's written right after the Holocaust?
Well, so it starts with two sides of the family coming back together after being separated by historical events such as the Holocaust. But you never actually see anything of the Holocaust. It is referenced. It is the historical backdrop of the play. But it really showcases what it's like for a family that was torn apart for almost 2 decades, trying to reintegrate in another country and finding the connection that they lost.
And learning how to communicate. It's a lot about just a family trying to connect to each other, trying to connect to their past, trying to connect to their future. There's a lot of elements in terms of the American dream that we
So I'm shivering as you're talking about this. It's making me a little bit, it sounds very emotional. Did I get that?
Yes.
Yeah?
Just
Yeah, a little emotional.
just
yeah.
a touch.
So do you have
so
a lot
universal.
do you have a lot of crying and screaming and
Well,
we get a little teary.
like I said,
very
I'm
well hydrated.
I'm getting a little teary listening to you
Yes.
talk about it.
And that's what and I think the playwright really emphasized that this is not supposed to be, oh my gosh, the Holocaust, like this overly dramatic soap opera. It's supposed to be a very human experience of these people who went through something tragic, very tragic, that people, I'm sure nowadays, maybe some have a hard time imagining, but
Conceptualizing something on that scale and that level of tragedy is, I think, hard for a lot of people.
yes.
Well, so here you are, Katharina, you're in your 20s, and Laura, you're in your 30s. And so this Holocaust thing is like you've never had any experience with it. I mean, did you ever even hear about the Holocaust?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
people haven't.
That's true.
In your age group, they
That's
haven't.
true.
So how do you?
Shocking.
Yes.
No, but it's
Like-
true. You've seen all the television promotions. A lot of people your age have absolutely no experience with that. So how does that fit in with you? Like, is it something that's like way beyond? Like, how do you relate to that backdrop?
Well,
I think it's, you want to?
I'm just.
Well, you both have an opportunity. So why don't we start with Laura?
I would say, I mean, for me, it's something that didn't impact my family directly.
Where are you from, Laura?
I'm from California. My family, on my mother's side, my great-grandparents came over from the Czech Republic and Ireland. But I would say that in terms of connecting with the Holocaust, it was something I studied in school, and it's you try to put yourself in those shoes, which is completely impossible. But I also think that there's some themes that are very, very relevant, and I think that the idea of the rise of nationalism, the idea of families being torn apart, of immigration crisis, is something that was very true and very much a part of the Holocaust and the crisis surrounding it.
So you can relate to it on some sort of
I think
historical.
It makes it easier to connect to it and to realize that, oh wow, some of these things are still very much a struggle that we face as a global community.
And what about you, Katharina? Where's your connection?
Well, I'm German, so I was born and raised in Germany.
Oh, so you speak German?
Yes, I'm fluent. So the Holocaust is something that we are very aware of, noting Germany's part in it, or the old Third Reich. So immediately, my family, I know from my opapa fought
Your Papa is your grandfather.
Yes.
Because your parents are second generation.
Well, my father's American and my mom is a German. She was born there as well. So she's a first generation American. I guess like she's also has a American citizenship now.
Yeah, she's called second generation. Like that's the terminology that you use for people with that background.
Gotcha.
Because your Papa, he was there during that period.
Yes, he was there. Yeah, and she grew up right after the Holocaust in Germany, so she got the whole education and the importance of knowing that it happened and to prevent it in the future. And I think as a German and having that identity is also very important to me, to make sure that people do not forget the importance of that event, that historical tragedy, the genocide. It's still happening nowadays in corners of the world, and I think in order to not have it happen again, we have to constantly talk and teach people about it, especially the act of othering people, because you can see it happening nowadays. Taking a group of people either by nationality, religious background, and saying that they're not like us, they don't identify with us, they don't feel like us.
So you're conscious of this.
So
what's this play about? What's the story?
So it starts off with Rose and her father.
Who is Rose?
This is Rose.
This is Rose,
Yes.
okay.
My sister, my younger sister.
Yes, the younger sister who, the backdrop is in the 1920s, it was intended that this entire family of 4 emigrate to the United States.
So that's way before the Holocaust.
But because the older sister Lucia at the time had scarlet fever, could not emigrate. So the father and the younger sister came over, and then because of the Great Depression and then the rise of nationalism, they could no longer get the mother and Lucia out. So
and the mother chose to stay with the other child.
Which is you.
Yes.
Rose.
No.
Lucia.
I'm Lucia.
One minute.
Lucia.
Okay, I got to get it straight.
Yeah.
So you are.
I am Rose.
You are Rose.
The younger, very Americanized sister.
You're in America, and you stayed back with your mother.
Yes, in Poland.
In Poland.
What we know today is Poland. I think it was there.
Poland is Poland.
At that time,
Poland
yes.
was
Poland was Poland.
Poland, yes.
Yes.
I see. And so then how does Rose and Lucia meet? Like, what are the circumstances that bring you together?
So actually, our father in the play, played by Mitch Greenberg, finds me through the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society.
Still an active organization.
Yes.
And he arranges that I come to New York in about 2 weeks' time, I think, at the beginning of the play.
Where's your mother in all this?
You will find out.
Mama is a really central figure in this play, and she exists in the play in memory. And
so I
fantasy.
assume what that means is that the mother died in the Holocaust.
Yes.
Yes. But
I don't think that's a secret, right?
well, not in memory.
Yeah.
In memory tells you. And then I assume that you must have gone through the Holocaust.
Yes.
Okay.
So I got liberated. Lucia was imprisoned in Auschwitz. And she did get liberated. But the play starts after that happened with flashbacks and dream sequences of things she remembers, things she hopes for, which is kind of like, I think, also a coping mechanism for her. But
how old is she when she meets Rose?
I'm 28.
Yeah.
In the play?
Yes, when we reunite. And I think Rose is 22. 22. So, so my father finds me or connects with me, and I am supposed to come in 2 weeks. Turns out I show up early because I took an airplane instead of a boat. Modern traveler. So I show up in New York early, and I call her, and that's sort of how the play gets going, with the two sisters trying to merge those two worlds that have been torn apart by many things, including the Holocaust, but also just circumstances.
Is one sister jealous of the other sister?
I think in any family there are complicated emotions. I think that they are so very different because of what their life experience has led them to. And I think that each of them have had struggles. Lucia's by far and away are the larger of the struggles. But one of Rose's struggles is connecting with the idea of a mother who she doesn't remember and not
Which is a
ever
tragedy.
having that in her life,
Yeah.
and then finding out that that person is gone, and connecting with what family she has left.
And what about the father? How's he relating? Of course, I'm still
I know.
shivering
Yeah,
as you're
it's-
talking.
I know.
What about the father? What about him?
So he immigrated with Rose, so he's very much sort of integrated into American culture and American life. He talks about like how he runs the store he's at now and how he's sort of living the American dream. But in a way, he's also a little ignorant, or I guess not ignorant, but
he's very stoic. He's very pragmatic, and
Does he have another woman in his life?
no,
No, we don't have that.
we don't have that. It's just
I know
no.
that layer.
No,
Gone.
Yeah.
No one has moved on. I
Yes.
think is one of like
Yes.
the big things here is
How to move on.
how to move on, how to remember the past, how to keep love and family alive across time, across space, across.
So
the
I'm
reality.
seeing that there's a lot of universal themes. That's what I'm
Very much
hearing
so.
from you, that it's quite universal
Yes.
in
yeah.
the fact that the two sisters, there's a tension between the sisters, there's a tension with the father and his
Definitely.
past. Is there a
Yeah.
guilt, a sense of guilt from the father?
I think
We
there
have to ask
is.
Mitch, but I would say
Yes.
yes.
It's just it's the culture of those people. That's what the fascinating, at least for me, a lot of the drama is that they don't like to wallow in it and they don't like to indulge in that. So like guilt
Very like
is very indulgent for those people. For Lucia, she can't wallow in her guilt or her sorrow because it does nothing for her. It's about the next task and the next task and finding her husband and completing the list, so to speak. And the show there is a list of sorts, which
accounting for your family.
accounting for the family and those extended family that were lost or are missing after the Holocaust.
Is there any humor in the show?
We get
Yeah.
we get little. There has to be a balance.
Right, because
Has
I'm
to
like
be.
getting tired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
You know, this
Yeah.
is like heavy
There-
stuff.
Yes.
There are funny moments in
Yes.
the, because when you have a tough time communicating, sometimes that results in some good old fashioned humor. There's a touch of the slapstick at one point.
Yes.
I say.
Yeah.
So what
yeah.
about this? That you said communication. You're from a different country, and do you have an accent? You speak with an accent. Are there accents in the show?
Yes. So I speak with 3 different dialects or accent. I speak Yiddish, and then I transition into a regular American, and then for when I'm not recalling memories or fantasies, and I'm with my sister and my father, I speak in a Yiddish accent, American.
How does that sound? Let me hear your Yiddish. Let
Oh.
me see how good you are with the Yiddish.
The accent? Or
Yeah, just talk to me a little bit. Let's see how that works. I'll talk back.
Okay. I can do nothing. I send him to man more important. Today I'll see what happens.
What happens?
Maybe, I think, David is on this list.
Duvid.
Yes.
And
David.
who is Duvid?
He is my husband.
Your husband. You are married.
Yes.
Aha.
Yes.
And what about you? Do you have accents also?
Since Rose grew up in New York, she does have a little Brooklyn accent. So
And how does that translate?
it comes across not overly done, not like give me a coffee right now.
Coffee. Yeah.
But she I think has also, as a child of her time, tried to work it out of herself a little bit. She watches all the movies, and she wants to be very cosmopolitan, but
It's not quite working.
it's. I think she's pretty cosmopolitan, but
yeah.
she's
She's pretty
definitely she
sophisticated.
tries so hard to be and embody this kind of her idea of the American dream.
What about the sisters? Do you love each other?
Yes, I think there's something, you're just genetically predisposed to loving some part of your family, but there is genuine love there because Lucia remembers her, and there are moments in the play she recounts, I take for a walk and show to friends my baby Schwester, make me feel good, happy, she certainly loves family, and it's very important to her. So even though there's alienation when we first meet, who are you? I haven't seen you for 2 decades. And you're so Americanized, which is a culture shock in and of itself for Lucia. She genuinely cares about her family. So yes, I do think.
I think so, and I think from Rose's perspective, her journey in getting to know Lucia is also an opening of kind of parts of herself that she didn't really know were there, kind of like this deep family love, this open love.
Right, she's living with a father who is a little stoic, and she's living in a single family, just a father with no family, no relations.
Yeah, they're she and her father were taken in by like distant cousins when they arrived in Brooklyn, and now Rose lives in her own apartment in Manhattan. Very fancy.
I want to know something. You were talking about, you're going back and forth in the accents, and I'm hearing like there's dream sequences, and that you have, you go, those are things of people of trauma. That's post-traumatic, what we call now post-traumatic stress syndrome. That's the word. And part of that, the Holocaust business, is that screaming and yelling. Like part of the nightmares.
Yes.
Do you have that in the play, like that screaming and that yelling and that that crying, that persistence? Is that part of the play too?
There is a nightmare sequence in it, and it's one of the moments where you understand that the Holocaust did happen and is very close. It's always like drifting on the outside of this play. And that's when it comes in. Lucia does have a nightmare, and there is the screaming, the crying, the
How
agony.
did I know this? How did
I know.
You're so in tune with this play. You should come see
I'm
it.
very Holocaust. I enjoy. I'm very Holocaust-centric. I think because I'm identifying a lot with what you're saying.
There's also the hope, though. Just watching, I've done a lot of watching of survivors, interviews with them, and
as preparation for this play.
Yes.
Are you instructed to do that?
No.
It's just kind of understood that that's
just
part of your job
That's
as an actor.
Okay.
to do your research.
And that's your research.
Yes.
Watching Holocaust testimonies.
Yes, which is kind of like I should be doing that anyway because it's important to know what these people went through. So I just, every day I'll watch a new interview. But it's amazing the amount of hope that these people have. It's, yes, they went through something horrific and inhuman evil. Like you can't just
There are
put
no
in
words.
You can't
there are no-
comprehend.
Yes.
But remember, the ones that you're seeing to testimonies are the ones who lived.
survivors.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
the other ones didn't have so much hope.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
which is very true. But it's incredible to see someone who survived dealing with that trauma. And it's the way that someone handles such trauma that I find so interesting, that people go to hope. It's something that you find in the play too, that Lucia, whenever something triggers her, she goes into this fantasy, this dream, these memories, and not all of them are good. But I think part of that is that as a survivor, this is how she copes with having gone through the camps.
Right, and you talked
Auschwitz.
also about the father. It's really how he coped too.
Yeah, he doesn't have any dream sequences in the play, but he does have the similar attitude of like, we're not going to wallow in it, we're
moving forward.
Right, we're
Yeah.
constantly moving forward. And I think I see that in the testimonies of these people that, yes, they still get emotional talking about it, but there's such a strength and hope that they display when they do say, like.
And what about Rose? Is Rose a sympathetic character? Because I can see her both ways. I can see her
Yeah.
being unsympathetic, like this person comes from Nowheresville and interrupts her beautiful life. I can see a potential
Yeah.
for non-sympathy. Am I correct or incorrect?
No, I think that both of these things exist in Rose. I think that she is a very caring person. She is also, though, there are some things that she cannot relate to. So I think
What can't she relate to?
she can't relate to the experience of living in, she refers to it as another world. She doesn't remember Poland.
Right.
She doesn't remember her childhood, and just conceptualizing what Lucia's been through, I think, is something that she can't quite emotionally connect with at first, which I would say makes her in a way relatable to a modern audience, because we are very privileged here. We are removed from many things that people around the world face that are just absolutely horrible. So I think that she lives in a little bit of a bubble at the beginning of the show, but I think part of her journey is coming out of that.
Well, I can see how this play would be relevant to huge amounts of people, not just because of the Holocaust. The Holocaust is one angle, but the other angle is people not being able to communicate because of differences, and just that sort of, the trauma of living, the daily trauma of just having to live. And of course, you're
And
making
that
me.
burden, yeah.
This is. I'm feeling a little
Yeah.
burdened by this play.
Do you need a moment?
Maybe I should
Make
take
up.
this.
I'm just kidding.
Well, I understand what you're talking about. So this play at Playhouse on Park is going on November 1 to November 17.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a beautiful play. I can feel that, and I can feel that from look, like sisters, like
Right?
sisters. Oh, it's beautiful.
And so
that.
honestly, at that last
Yeah.
audition, when it was the two of
Yeah.
us, we had both read with other people, and then we did the audition, and we were like,
I think it's you. We were like, "Ah." And then when we
Yeah.
walked into the first rehearsal, I saw her and I was like,
Like-
I knew it.
You know what? What I see, you look alike.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, you
I
look
love
alike.
that.
There's something about both of you that looks alike. Like not just your coloring, but just sort of like your style. There's something about you.
I feel like there's, I mean, it was well cast. They did a
Yes.
good job of bringing us together.
Everyone is so
Yeah.
lovely.
And yeah, they should feel
You're a
like
family.
sisters.
You're a
Yes,
family.
we really
So
are.
before we leave our audience at home, is there anything else you want to tell me that we haven't spoken about?
I guess I just want to thank Playhouse on Park and Sean Harris, Darlene Zoller.
Yeah. Our wonderful director, Don Loveland Navarro.
Yes, Tracy
Flater?
Flater, our stage managers, our crew.
Everyone's so dedicated.
Yeah, everyone is so incredibly dedicated and just so giving. Everyone has been so giving, just yes all the time, and working really hard to make this such a delicate and beautiful production that it is.
So I'm
very
going to say yes to Playhouse on Park, playing the Shayna Maidel, Shayna Maidel, which means a pretty girl, and that's going to be from November 1 to November 17. Be there.